Welcome to TYT Sports, everybody. If we go to the wide shot, I can introduce, once again, you've met him before, you've seen him over at BBallBreakdown, Coach Nick. As always, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
Great to have you in, which means we're going to talk about sports like baseball, football. No, we're going to talk about basketball today. We have a lot of fun clips that are going to be spread out through this weekend. We're shooting it on Friday in the studio. So we're going to jump right in. The leaders of the Western Conference are the 7-1 Los Angeles Clippers, and they are being led by, of course, a core four starters that we've seen pretty much in place for the last 3-4 years. J.J. Redick, Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, and Blake Griffin. Not just them. Of course, they have the sixth man of the year, Jamal Crawford, a great transplant from the Warriors, and Maurice Spates. When you look at what they've been doing, including a absolute thrashing of the Portland Trail Blazers. What was the score you were just saying to me, like at one point in the third quarter?
Yeah, they doubled them up. It was 90-45. I don't think I've ever seen a score like that.
I've seen it once last year, and I can't remember the team. I remember watching the Warriors being up 88-44. But 90-45 is even more impressive because it's an even larger lead, a 1 point extra lead. But it is, when it comes to the Clippers, is this question answered as simply as they're healthy? This is what the Clippers are capable of? They can be the best team in the Western Conference?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to forget that when they've had these injuries, and they're devastating in the past several years, they don't always look as good as they can. Although they had glimpses when Blake was out for that long time where the argument was maybe he's better the Clippers are better without him in the lineup. So we're seeing a really good bench, a more capable bench than they've had in a long time. But it's their defense. They are just locking down team after team, and their defensive rating right now is 91, which is 12 points lower than it was last year, which was a top 10 defense.
That's amazing.
You have a good team defensive system. You have really good defenders in DeAndre Jordan and Chris Paul, and even Mbah Moute is a good defender. So they're just having their way on that end, and that's feeding a lot of their offense and a lot of their wins.
So I wanted to get into a couple of things. For one, Chris Paul's quote when it came to, he's a very self-aware guy. I praise Chris Paul every chance I get because I think watching Chris Paul is one of the best gifts in the game. Let's go to the next quote before we get to Blake. The part about it is that we will hit adversity at some point, Paul said Wednesday night after the Clippers had little trouble dispatching the Portland Trail Blazers at the Staples Center. As much fun as I'm having right now, that's all I'm thinking about. When that does happen, seriously, just how are we going to react? That's the thing. So, look, for me, you want to help a locker room that might be in trouble, which I don't think the Clippers have ever been in that situation, win games.
Yeah.
Winning is the best medicine. You've never seen a team that's 7-1 to start a season be like, well, they're having some problems in the locker room. If the Pacers were 8-0, there wouldn't be so many problems in the locker room. But so in this situation with Chris Paul, because you mentioned the defensive rating, a lot of what I see from Chris Paul is just he's not as fast as he used to be, but he's smarter than he used to be. The experience, obviously, and he's going in a league that is so point guard heavy, so much so point guard scoring heavy that it favors him, even though he's technically an undersized point guard given what we've seen from some other teams in the league. So, I mean, just from out of Chris Paul's stance and defensively, it's always been one of his pluses. When it comes to not just Chris Paul, though, there's always the Blake Griffin rumors. Is he going to go back to Oklahoma City, right? And they say the trade. First, before we get into what he had to say, it's a loaded question. Do you think Blake Griffin should get traded if they can get something in return?
I mean, obviously, if you can get something in return, you should explore that. They definitely have something here that you don't often see. That the teamwork and the passing that they have between him and DeAndre Jordan and the way they work with Chris Paul, that is good. You don't want to lose that. When Chris Paul went out and he became basically the point guard in that team, that was very impressive. The issue I would have with Blake Griffin's game is that he makes almost no plays on defense. Not that he's a horrible defender, and like what we've seen maybe in James Harden's case sometimes, but he just sometimes you need to play, you need a deflection, a steal, a block shot, or something, and he doesn't really seem to have the propensity to make plays like that. And I would like to see that happen from that position a little bit more. That said, they're doing great, and we've seen the power forward be a weak spot in a lot of terrific team defenses back in Chicago with Boozer, even David Lee when he was playing with the Warriors.
Yeah,
so that's the one spot you can actually get away with it with a subpar defender. But it just feels to me if you want to win in the West, and especially in the Western Conference, you need to get plays in the defensive end by almost everybody throughout the game.
Which is a totally fair point. I mean, especially you mentioned like those kind of plays. Julius Randle made that kind of play against DeMarcus Cousins in last night's. We're shooting this Friday. I was watching the Kings and the Lakers game. From a guy who For whatever reason, Blake Griffin's a freak athlete. We know he can jump out of the building. He still has this like some speed from when he came out of school, not as much obviously. But Julius Randle and Blake Griffin to me, just how they move, it's a little bit spastic. It's not exactly fluid.
Right.
So it's interesting to see. So I make that point because you're making the point of just like you need those plays, those deflections, those tips, maybe even a little bit of luck on a bad pass, something like that. So it's interesting coming to Blake Griffin. What Blake Griffin had to say is he shot it down immediately. People that I talk to, my friends and family from back home, I think they are, I would say, true friends and family where they know that my main focus is this season and this team. Griffin said again, this all came after Wednesday night. And they know that I enjoy playing here and I love this team, coaching staff, everybody. So they know that that's my main focus. So I think they pretty much know not to bring that up. Here's what I know. Blake Griffin loves Los Angeles. He's a part of an LA culture. You see him out in Los Angeles, even in the off season. A lot of guys have LA homes for the NBA. Blake Griffin's home is here. I don't think he wants to leave the Clippers. No. Granted, in a trade situation, you don't really get a choice if you want to leave the Clippers.
That's right. I mean, certainly the commercials he makes are probably the best and the funniest of any of the NBA players we see here. So
agree.
Sure. And he loves hanging out with the comedy guys around the Comedy Store and stuff. So I would be surprised if after he retires, if he remains a Clipper, I bet you he'll get into the entertainment business as it is. So
yeah, he's got the promising future. And that's also why people say they hate Blake Griffin. Is like because you see him so much on ads and stuff like that. He's very promoted.
I guess so. I mean, he's likable. He's funny. They're charming in a way that I don't know. I would find it hard to believe that anyone would really hate that guy, but you never know. It's a weird place.
Except renowned season ticket holder of the Los Angeles Clippers, executive producer Dan Keston, who loves Blake Griffin until there's 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Fair? That's fair. All right. Comment below, like, favorite, subscribe to the channel. Make sure to head over to BBallBreakdown. A lot of the people I know that were watching when Nick was on the clips in the first place were like, oh my God, it's two of my favorite basketball channels collaborating, all that stuff. Yeah, we talk to each other. The YouTube community, you guys brought that out. You were the ones who said, go find Coach Nick and bring him on the show. So we thank you guys for that one.
Well, little did you know, I live down the street. So
that's what's so funny too. Is like, oh wow, because I remember when we first talked, it was we can have you on through Skype, and you're like, well, you in LA? I'm a couple miles away. I was like, that's even better. You can come to the studio. All right, make sure to check out the description box below for any links to where to subscribe, Twitter, all that good stuff.